So if you're tired of complicated funnels and you've spent way too much time and money chasing leads who never end up buying, and you just want marketing that actually gets you sales on repeat, let's go ahead and talk about that. My name is Brianne Dick. I'm the co-founder of the Visionary CEO Academy, and today I'm going to show you the tool that we use, not just in our business, but with all of our clients to create simple, sustainable marketing that actually works. It's called the demand gen system, and it is hands down the simplest framework I've ever found for building a sales engine that actually delivers sales, not just leads. And it does it without relying on funnels, fancy tech, or a huge team. Now, before we dive in, if you want to follow along and apply this into your own business, I've got a workbook that you can download it. You can just find the button or link right below this video and go ahead and grab your copy there. But let's go ahead and dig in. So, what is it about sales and marketing that we need to fix? Why is it a problem? Well, there's three main challenges that I've discovered when I work with business owners on their sales and marketing systems, right? Number one is they're constantly creating, but creating doesn't lead to sales, right? So you're putting in all this time and energy, you're putting in all of this effort, but you're not getting the money that you need to make it worth it. Maybe that's because you're just not getting any leads, but more often than not, it's actually that you're getting bad fit leads, right? They're not a good fit. They're not who you want. And even if they are, they just don't close. And then maybe you've tried to hire someone to take some of this off of your plate so that you're not one having to do all of the work and someone else can be doing the screening or the sales calls. But the problem is that you're still the bottleneck. Even though you've tried delegating, you're still the person that has to make the decisions, has to show up and review stuff. You're still in the weeds, right? And so these are the problems with traditional marketing approaches that we need to fix. Specifically, we want to flip these on their head, right? We want, instead of having a lot of creation that doesn't lead to sales, we want to be able to spend less time and create bigger results, right? In order to do that, we need to make sure that when we are attracting leads, we're getting better quality leads. Not just better quality, but people who are actually primed to buy, so that you can start getting sales on repeat without you having to be involved at every step, without having to constantly launch, without having to rely on social media, without having to do all the things that are taking so much of your time and energy and that are keeping you as the bottleneck. And so when we do that, we need to have an approach that really understands that not all leads are created equal. And just chasing more leads won't lead to the results you want. Think about it this way. If you have low demand, so demand is low, and you have few leads, that's not going to be a good situation, right? This is going to be no sales. You could have high demand and few leads, in which case you've got great clients, but not enough of them. You could have low demand and a lot of leads. And that's going to mean that you've got unqualified leads. What we really want is for you to have high quality leads and in high demand, because that's where you get scalable sales, right? And so we need a way to both address demand and address the quality of the leads, because if we only have one or the other, we don't end up getting what we want. So how do we do that? Well, there's four elements that we need to talk about. We need a system that not only addresses demand, but also addresses lead quality. And that's the elements of what we call demand gen system. So the first element of the demand gen system is the generate element. And this is how you get in front of new people that have never heard of you before. So this is guest trainings, podcast interviews, showing up in other people's masterminds, running ads, all of these ways that new people hear about you. That's about creating awareness. It's the first step of creating demand by going to places where your potential clients are already hanging out and being able to generate demand from among them. Then next we have identifying. This is where you get hand raisers. So not every person that you go to and talk to in this generate stage is going to be someone that could be a client. What we want to know are who are the people who are going to self-identify as saying, what you're talking about is interesting. I think that might apply to me. I want to know more about this. I want to check out a little bit more of what you've got going on. We call those people the hand raisers. Once we know if someone's a hand raiser, then we can go ahead and we can invite them. We can create a situation where they can hear about our solution. You can go ahead and say, hey, not only am I raising my hand that maybe I have this problem, but I'm curious to know how could you solve this? Because when you've got someone who requests an invitation, that's when you get the opportunity to tell them what you do, to share with them what it's all about, and to actually turn that into sales. And so one of the biggest things with your demand gen system is that you need all of these components. But more importantly, you need all of these components to lead to each other. So we need to have a way that when someone is ready to raise their hand, we have a chance for them to do that. When someone is ready to hear a solution, they're ready to do that. And when someone is ready to buy, we have a way for them to do that. Now, notice here that we're talking about them doing it on their time. And that's one of the key differences between a traditional funnel and having a demand gen system. In a traditional funnel, the idea is you put leads in, and you market to them, you market to them, you market to them until eventually buyers come out the bottom. But the challenge with this is that if someone decides to exit, then that's considered a lost lead and you've got a leaky funnel. If you think about it, this is kind of gross, right? It assumes that everyone in your audience is a potential buyer. And if someone doesn't buy, you just need to market to them harder. And the more content and nurture you do, the more sales you're going to get. But that's what creates those problems we talked about off the top, right? Where you have to do more. You have to put in more content. You have to have more touch points. You have to show up more. You have to do more, more, more. And that's not what we want. What we want is to have our demand gen system be an opportunity for the right people to enter. And then when they're ready to move to the next stage, they can say, yeah, I'm ready to move to the next stage. And when they're ready to move to the next stage, they're ready. And they're just able to move themselves through in a way that actually works. Because this is how real people buy, right? It's more like having one of those coin sorters where you put all the coins in the top and the bigger ones will stay on the top, but then, your quarters will stay on the top and then your nickels will be the next ones. And then the dimes are smaller and the pennies are smaller and you shake it and people go to the right level for where they're at. That's what demand gen is about. It's about getting everyone into a place where they can sort themselves and you can start to treat your leads like leads without actually, trying to just force everyone through and putting everyone through the same pathway. When you do this, you spend less time chasing people and more time closing sales with people who are actually ready to buy. So that's the context of what we're doing here. But we need to make this practical, right? Because all the theory isn't going to help you if we don't actually give you some action steps. So this is the demand gen checklist, and it's very simple. All you have to do is just take the stuff you're already doing in your business for each of those activities. How are you generating? How are you identifying? How are you inviting? And how are you converting? Write down your top 1, 2, or 3, depending on how many you've got, under the channel or activity list. Talk about how often you're doing it, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, on demand. And then give yourself a color rating. Is this red, yellow, or green? Is it working the way you want? Is it repeatable? And does it demonstrate your values in action? If it does all 3, you're green. If it only does 1, it's red. And if it's somewhere in the middle, it's going to be yellow. But go through and for each one of these activities, give yourself that score. So how often are you doing it? and how well is it working. Because when you do this, you're really going to be able to see what's worth doubling down on and where your gaps are. So maybe you're doing a ton of generate. You're going out and getting in front of a whole lot of people, but those people aren't being given a chance to raise their hand. That means that you have an identify gap that you might need to solve. Or maybe you're just doing too many things. You're in too many places and you're spreading yourself way too thin. This will make that really obvious too. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to do all the things, you're going to end up exhausted. You're going to end up burning yourself out, and you're going to end up in a place where it doesn't matter how many people you hire. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at the problem. You're still going to end up unprofitable because you're spending time and energy and money on things that aren't actually creating results. That's what the demand gen system is about fixing. It's about helping you create real traction with real buyers using systems that won't break when you step away. So if you want consistent, high quality sales without having to build a ton of complicated funnels or hiring a massive team, go ahead, grab the checklist and get started. Like I said, the button for that is down below. You can go ahead and download the workbook and start mapping out your demand gen system today. You don't need more tactics. You just need a system that actually works. That's all I got for you. We'll see you next time.